Hello? 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 Going once? Going twice? No. Hello? 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 Going once? Going twice? Gone. Hello?
Hello?
Okay. Yes, I'm here.
Hi.
Hey.
Let's see if I remember now. I wanted to say that when people are so skeptical, people you've talked to, and
Yes.
people we all talk to, but
Sure.
where do they think those tens and tens of billions of dollars are going to the military? So it's like the ignorance of people is astonishing.
Yes.
Because that money goes somewhere. Just follow it a little. I mean, where is that going to go? Yes, they pay for airplanes and boats and things like that, but and salaries. But we're talking billions and billions of dollars, and that's why this stuff has leached to the American population. In other words, us and the people who have called you.
Yes.
And so anyway, that's just one thing to point out to people when they're so incredulous that this, that this technology could now be used by sociopaths and psychopaths and just people who are bored or whatever. Criminals in the air, criminals in our defense establishment, the people who are supposed to be protecting us with our tax dollars are killing us, killing their own citizens.
Me and you go to the nearest small town you live in, or we go to the most populous location you live in. We go there at 11 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday morning. You pick 5 people out of nowhere, and just so we have their undivided attention, we give them $20 and said, we're going to ask you about a dozen questions. Here's your $20 or whatever. Would you mind answering these questions? Sure, for $20, yeah. So you ask a few questions. Do you know who the Vice President of the United States is? Probably only a small portion is going to know. They should, but they don't. Or they're going to guess some former vice president, and it's a guess. Then you ask them who the Secretary of State in their own state is. They're not going to know. Right. Who is the mayor or who is the council chairman for this city or this county? Either one. I don't know.
Right.
Do you know what the military budget is for this year?
My point is not so much about the ignorance, but just that that it should be pointed out to people that that so much money is just checked off by the Congress to give it military and then there's no oversight, there's no follow through, there's no. Oh, so what is that HARP transmitter doing? Oh, we should ask for the records, or we should monitor it with a satellite dish, or an antenna.
Here's what happens.
What's going on?
They have a Senate and a House Intelligence Committee. They're at the lower and upper house of Congress, both. There's anywhere from 5 to maybe 9 or 12 people that are on either one. They have absolute clearance. It's just short of what the president has. But it is short of it, but it's, 9 out of 10. Okay?
The House Intelligence Committee, is that what you are saying?
Yes. And the Senate Intelligence Committee. They're independent in each house. So whoever this person is, this CIA agent they call in, or a former agent, FBI, whoever they call in, they say, what are you doing? What's your job? They haven't spelled it out. It's an enclosed committee, so nobody comes, no reporters. Sometimes, depending on what it is, staffers can't even come. or they have one staffer that's authorized to be there, but usually none. So I'm told. I haven't been in none, so I don't know. But then they say, well, we spent $9.75 million on a thing that's listed as A2255. What is that? It doesn't, it just gives it a number. What is that? And you're under sworn testimony. If you lie, you're going to go to jail. What is that? Now, they're not just going to ask them. They're going to ask 3 or 4 people behind them what it is, and somebody is going to tell. So the rest of them's going to go to jail. So they know this. So they'll tell because it's confidential and private. Well, that is a heat-seeking missile defense system. Where is it located? How often is it used? They do ask those questions.
Okay.
They do get briefings. So those very few people, we got approximately 330 million people, so they say. That number's low. There's more people than that. But that's floating around the official number. But out of that, between all of Congress, a handful of people at the Pentagon, the Joint Chiefs of Staff and President, we're probably looking at 50 people, maybe, out of 330 million people that actually know all of this stuff or most of this stuff or a good portion of it. And those people are the ones that say to the rest of Congress, we checked out the black ops, we've checked the off-the-grid, off-the-reservation ops. They've got to come to us for one thing and another. Okay, great. So they know that, and they go with that because they're satisfied it's okay. Occasionally, there'll be so many million that they'll say, this is at the presidential level. We cannot disclose this to you. But we can come back with a presidential report, which basically means they go to the president and say, Congress is asking about this. Only you know about this, and the actual participating parties that brought it about. So what do you want to do? So the president, through whoever this person is that gives them their staff briefing, is going to say, presidential review finds acceptable and necessary. The word necessary. When you see the word necessary in law, really pay close attention. I tell the story about a boy that was 14 years old in the American colony, so I'm told. I don't know that to be a fact. But the story's been told ever since I was a little kid. But they told it actually at a police academy I went to. This kid was 14 years old. He went onto a ship. He was, a cook, a floor whopper, whatever he was, and the captain got the permission of his parents to take him on the ship, and they would go to 3 different continents and take their booty or bounty from place to place, collect their money, and that he was going to get so many shillings or gold pieces or what have you. Well, they almost ran out of water, and they had run out of food, and the captain knew that they were X amount of days away from making it back. They weren't going to make it back, but they would probably starve to death before they make it back. So he made a captain's declaration that it's necessary to kill, cook, and eat that boy. So they killed him, cooked him, and ate him. When he got to port, the sailors talked about it, and the constables arrested him and took him to the justice of the peace or the district court, whatever they had then. And the court said, I am claiming maritime necessity. There's different kinds of necessity, but this is, we're at the high seas, right, and the lives of everybody's at peril, and I made a decision it was necessary to kill him, cook him, and eat him that we all survived. So the court had to release him based on necessity, life-threatening necessity. However, the court said whatever that boy would have made traveling on his ship for his life expectancy, he must pay that to his parents in gold and silver immediately, And he went on the ship because his family was impoverished. So however many hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars that would come to, so he had the constable seize and hold the ship until he was paid. So the man actually had to borrow a gigantic amount of money against his ship in bills of lading to get his ship back, and he had to pay the family, and they had to receive it before he could go. So necessity is a big thing. And a lot of times, military operations say this is necessary. And the reason they're saying it's necessary.
This is a problem because
yes.
That means that the military is running the country because it is largely or partly, it's their weapons, their employees, the people that they hire who are not governmental employees necessarily, or whatever, mayhem and anarchy is going on here.
Yes, ma'am.
It's just intolerable.
Well, I have to politely disagree because the Congress in these intelligence committees, they have to approve it or it stops. The president has to review it or it stops. So there is a check and balance, and not everything they want gets approved. Or if they're doing something, sometimes Congress shuts them down.
Okay,
or the president shuts them down. Yeah.
Just look at the numbers, the billions and billions and billions. I mean, how can anybody really follow through and keep track of where every penny is spent? But I'm just saying that that's why, in part, just because of the amount of money, it's like spoiled kids getting every single thing they want, and maybe you're right that they don't get every single thing they want. There are maybe a few projects, or I don't know, maybe
everything that they ask for, they ask for it in the name of national security.
Right.
So, necessary national security. So the Congress has to say, this is not necessary, this doesn't affect this, or the president says it, and it's the end of the road.
Well, so this
but they do get a lot.
The next question that is, I think it's fantastic for your help, and if you go to California and meet with the police chief and educate them or whatever,
sure.
That would be an absolutely big, huge step if you were to go around to the various police agencies and do an educational program or something.
Right, I'm trying to work with private instructors. I'm trying to work with private teaching groups that work with numerous law enforcement agencies across the country, because if they teach them when they're coming in as cadets or advanced training, then they'll go back to their departments and say, hey, we heard this. Really?
Yeah, that's a
Man, I never heard of that. Oh, and that'll cause a lot of coffee shop and donut talk, for lack of a better word. Mm-hmm. Then their captains, their lieutenants, their chiefs will start saying, wow, what do you know about this? And then it'll come around, but it takes a little time. But I'm working with them. I got to build a curriculum.
So this way, even though it would be just fantastic, right, to get to the point you're talking about and everything, where maybe law enforcement would start to get educated about it and everything.
Yes.
But
right.
So then that after we get to that point, then we're talking about, okay, so maybe that they'll have the equipment and the tools and the understanding that could be real and to maybe, but then they need the money to do the investigations and all that. Okay, so we're talking time and time and time. I'm just saying, even though that would be absolutely better than nothing, because this has been going on a long time for some people, but I'm just saying, is there a shorter way? I mean, I just think we need, like class action lawsuit, people like you testifying.
Well,
people like all the people who spoke and testifying.
But remember,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
You actually, a class action lawsuit, you actually have to bring forth real tangible evidence.
Right.
Then you have to convince a jury that it's more likely than not, and you have evidentiary rules. So if your evidence doesn't meet the evidentiary rule, you don't get to take it in. And in a class action lawsuit, just say there's 1,000 people in it. The first 5 or 10 people in there is going to get the lion's majority of the money. The attorneys are going to get 33 to 40% off the top plus expenses. So I always tell people only 50% is what's actually going to get to the people. The top 5 or 10 people in it are going to get the lion's majority. The other people, even if it was $10 million, 5's going to attorneys right off. The other 5's left between everybody. The first 5 or 10 people are going to get into the several hundred thousand. The people that's number 25 or 30 or 50 or 200 down there is going to get a $20 gift certificate or a Visa card or cash for $20. So, they waited for 3 years or 5 years for something to end, and they says, now your claims are settled. Now you can't go back in your private capacity and say, hey, I'm suing this person. Well, no, you settled all your claims. You're done. So you got $20. You had $50,000 worth of damage, and you settled for $20. If you hadn't have done this class action lawsuit, you could have went on your own injuries, your own damage. I don't tell people what to do because that's legally bad. I just say it's an option people have to consider.
Right, I hear you. I'm just trying to suggest, other.
Sure.
How are we gonna end this insanity? And and that was just one idea or whatever, way.
I've looked at so many ideas and thought of so many things, and everybody that I know that, what I consider reasonable logical, said you got to go to the root. It's the education. We have to educate. Where do police get their education? At the academy. Okay, we got to get the instructors or curriculum set up and get them teaching this. Those officers are going to go on the street between 3 and 6 months. They're going to have to somehow, some way begin to experience some of this so they can use their skills. And then in 3 to 5 years, then they're going to be the corporals and the sergeants. Then in 10 years, they're going to be the chiefs and they're going to be the captains and other things. So it isn't going to happen real fast, but it's like a domino effect. Once you got some police department, sheriff's office, constable, marshal, and they worked up some PI complaint, went all the way through, got all the evidence and proved it was the Army or the Navy or IBM Corporation or a mom and pop store down here that has a hate list and they targeted 20 people and they got people that are using this stuff and they take them and they prosecute them and they go to prison. Other police departments are going to use that for a landmark case. Then things are going to speed up real fast.
Right. Right.
So unless you got a specific department that works up a case and comes to the conclusion the disposition is a confession or a conviction and, people can go back to the public records and get it to see what all you did, and they can start mimicking that. Then you start creating an avenue of recovery.
Right. Well, and the last thing that I wanted to address is you mentioned evidence a lot, and the thing is about this is that it's invisible. The radiation in general is invisible.
Yep.
And so the only thing is to have meters. And unfortunately, they pushed cell phones and all kinds of wireless devices real hard, but they didn't push the things where you can read what's making the devices work and what you're surrounding yourself with and all that. And those are meters. And so so most of them are real expensive and everything. But anyway, so that's, as far as evidence, that's where we got to try to kind of focus and see if we can get it cheaply done and easily done where people can do it in their own homes, because people are wanting $5,000 to do it at all.
I'm going to try and get to my last 2 Q&As because I've been on here for 3 hours and my wife's getting antsy. Thanks. Hello? Hello?
Yes, Chief. Can you hear me?
Hey, yes, I can now, yes.
Yeah, Chief, my question is, have you ever heard of two molecular wire that they used in the 1960s and 70s to identify non-Christian whites?
No.
No? A lot of commanding officers use the we word, don't talk about it, and deflect to Christianity. And my question is, if there's validity there, what's the probability that criminal element or what affects us has gotten a hold of what dates back to the 60s and 70s? And I have a site, USA1, USA2.com, has a reference to it, but at least there's enough there to link off of and find research within the department's agencies and branches. I don't find a lot on the net. Have you heard of it? Thank you for the time in advance.
Yeah, I've never heard of it, but it's very intriguing to me. And I'm pretty worn out after 3 hours here, and I had to do a lot of preparation for today and do a lot of testing. So I've been at this one way or another for about 8 hours. So if there's any chance you could send me an email, and you can get it on my tihelpnow.com, or you can send it to my personal email, then tomorrow I have to make a trip for a few hours, and somebody's going to be helping me. So I could read the email, I could look it up, I could start doing some research on it, and I'm pledging to do that as of between 9 and 10 o'clock tomorrow Central Time. If I get an email tonight or in the morning before I start out, I will start looking at it.
Okay, fantastic. I understand it's been a long night. Where do I go to get your email? I think I was on your site.
Okay. Well, I've got a special email that's set up, and I think it's tihelpnow@gmail.com, but I'm not positive. But if you go to the website www.tihelpnow.com, it'll give you an email, and I get it no matter which way it goes.
Okay, TIHelp now.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Understood.
TIhelpnow.com. Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, fantastic. So there's song, there's song about it. It's referenced in places. A quick question as I let you go for the evening.
Sure.
In the 50s, there was no Jews allowed at universities. Michael Jordan was the first African American to play at Baltimore Shore Country Club in the mid-'80s. Jews were not allowed, denied country clubs and denied Baltimore Shore up to that point. How did they know, Mr. Smith, that you were non-Christian white? And it's not only Jews, it was non-Christian whites who could sit right next to them. African Americans said they had segregated in 64 Civil Rights Act. How would they have known that it was a Jew, or that your wife, Mr. Smith, is a Jew? And that's the origins. And there's some weight to its validity. If there's validity there, there's validity, as I stated, in that being a strong probability molecular wire. It's invisible to the naked eye in its final form. It starts off as a mechanical pencil lead thickness, but they hit it with a process and it just leaves a thin line of molecules. With that, I appreciate your time. I will forward the information to you and look forward to bringing up the conversation in the future. Thank you for your time tonight.
Yes, God bless you. Bye-bye. Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Hello? Yes.
Oh, is there this being your first time doing this, there might not be, but I'm hoping there's a playback number or a recorded line that I can review some of the information you gave?
Yes, I have to find out what that is.
That's what I hear every time. Every call I go on, it's like, we'll find out, and then they never do. All right.
Oh, no. Well, this is my first time, and Ella, tomorrow, the next day, depending, whenever she has an opportunity and can talk me through this. I was smart enough to look for a record button. It took me a while, and I found it to record this, so I know it is recorded, but she's going to help me find it and know how to put it so you or everybody else can call, because I want people to be able to call and listen to this all they want, and that actually gives them a lot of answers they want.
Right, and some of the answers you gave were excellent. It's like, I need to write that, listen to it again so I can write it down, and it's like, oh, that's why I'm asking.
Sure,
all right,
you can listen and pause it and back it up and all that. But,
thank you.
The worst case scenario, if I had to download it I would put it on something with a link where people could listen anytime. I wouldn't let it go. I just wouldn't.
Yeah, no, I don't do that. I'm not online, so.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to try and fix it where it'll work exactly as it should.
Yeah, usually you can play back the line for until the next time the call. So it would be good for a week. So, all right, thank you, sir.
So
I appreciate what you're bringing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hello?
Hello. Hi, how are you doing?
Okay, you're the very last one, and then I'm going for the night.
Wonderful. Perfect. I'm so glad I made it, Fania. I'm Amy Hallam. I'm the one that Pat was in reference to the audio work that I do and to prove the V2K, the AI system, it's in the RNM. Now, how do you suggest, and I wrote you an email so you could contact me and talk to me later, how do you suggest that I go forth in confronting the officers with the forensic evidence?
Well, that would probably require a bit of conversation as to how sophisticated the police are where you live.
Should I go with the mayor and the chief of police, or straight to the chief of police? Or because a regular officer won't take that seriously.
Right. So is this, a 500 people town, a 3,000 people town? I mean, what size are you talking for the population?
For the population, I got audio evidence of one company and corporation that have 3,500 targets. So that's just
what I'm saying.
Oh, what?
Yeah, I'm saying the city you live in, where you're a victim of a crime, you've been damaged. How many people live there?
I live in Orlando, Florida, probably about 10 to 15 in the Orlando area, but we got 106 in the Florida region alone.
No. I'm talking in the very city that you live in.
15 to 20.
Do you live in the... 17 to 20,000. Okay. You probably have a decent chance at talking to the chief and the mayor. However, they have a tendency to have a sergeant, a lieutenant, or a captain, somebody in mid-management.
Yeah, the lieutenant contacted me.
Yeah, and in a first initial intake inquiry, not investigation, it's inquiry as to who you are, what do you want to talk to the chief about, because I've got to make sure it rises to the level that it needs to get in front of him, because everybody that comes in wants to talk to the chief, so I've got to filter through to find out who really needs to go.
Now, I did talk to the mayor, and I did get a response from the mayor's associate, and I will be calling him tomorrow. How do you suggest that I confront the mayor to possibly get a meeting with him?
Well, if you talk to the mayor, you tell him, as the chief elected official, that he has the responsibility for the safety of all the people, and that you and or other people have been being damaged by an unorthodox method that they're probably not familiar with. They may be, but very unlikely. And that you need a meeting with him and the chief of police and any staff that want to come. You're going to bring evidence and facts that police sometimes don't know how to gain or capture them themselves because they haven't had this training. But I'm going to tell them how to do it, and I'm going to show them what I got, and then I'm a victim, and repeatedly tell them I'm a victim, and I have the hardcore evidence. And I'm going to expect you to, if the chief is reluctant to do something, I'm going to expect you as your constituent to tell him he must do this. I'm a victim,
Okay. All right.
You know, so see, like the mayor, you know, he's the head of the city, and there's numerous people that head various departments. So if you got an animal control, maybe there's chief animal control, and there's 2 or 3 people that do animal control. Then you got people from the public works department, water department, electric department, police department,
Right.
fire department. Each one of those have a head, but he's the head of all the heads.
Right.
So if he issues a directive to the chief of police verbally or in writing to do something, the chief has no choice. If the chief doesn't do it, it's dereliction of duty, and he can terminate him on the spot.
Okay.
You know, that's the general rule. Now, there are some really bizarre contracts that some cities do sign with the chief of police or head of an agency that said that they got to actually be convicted, not arrested, but convicted of a felony, and their contract's 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. And if they're actually convicted of a felony, they have to pay it. Now,
Okay.
they can lay them off, but, you know, that's an unusual thing, but I have seen it.
Okay, because I did contact the state attorney as well with the audio proof and the evidence, and I sent the files of the audio proof and evidence forensically, and they told me to contact the police department. But when I contacted the police department wouldn't do anything, so I contacted the
Right.
mayor.
Right. Well, the state attorney's office in Florida can direct file anything, and they have law enforcement investigators within their office that can go do it. But they get into this really, 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 really bad habit of not taking anything unless the police have looked at it first and refers it on up with some documentation. Yeah, we checked it out. It looks good. You can prosecute it or not, but, you know, it's got the basic ABCs, you know, and sometimes they won't send it with a recommendation one way or the other. They'll just say, here's the evidence we have. Sometimes they'll send it up with a warrant or request a grand jury or whatever it might be. You know, there's just different ways to do things. I worked in Florida for 19 or 20 years, and that's where I retired 3 times from Florida in different situations. So I spent a lot of time at the either Attorney General's office or several state attorneys' offices numerous times. So I know how they do.
Okay.
So
Well,
they can take what you go, and they don't have to mess with no police. They just don't do it.
Okay.
You know,
Even with over 100
basically,
people's audios and videos to verify it?
yes, because here's the deal. They do have investigators. And depending on the size of the county, I would say they probably got 4 to 6 people in the Attorney General's office, the state attorney's office, and in the district they're in. They may have a dozen because they may take up 3 or 4 counties, depending on the size of the county. Like we had 5 or 6 counties in our 14th judicial district. So there's some kind of judicial district. And whoever it is, they don't want them just investigating everything people send in. So the way they filter it is if the police look at it and the police say it's, you know, a legit thing, they automatically almost have a knee jerk. It's not legit until the police look at it. Once the police look at it, if the police send it up to us, then it has some merit, some legitimacy. Then that's when they send their investigator out to clarify with the investigators that worked on the case, hey, you put this together, I got some question marks on this, that, and the other. I need some answers. So he really isn't investigating. He's really getting them to clarify things.
Okay.
If there's certain things they say, we don't have the funds to go up to the next level of investigation. So either the state attorney's going to find a grant and give them some kind of state or federal grant that's going to grant something that'll allow them to do it, which is very unusual, but they have, or they're going to say, okay, well, we'll put it to our special victims unit that has a lot of special resources, and they go up from there.
So the state or federal grants then?
Right. I mean, it takes a long time to get them, so they're not real speedy. I'm just saying that cities and counties apply for them all the time, and that's where police have been tangled up since the Bill Clinton administration with all these strings for a federal grant. You must assist the Homeland Security Department. You must assist the FBI. You must do this. You must do that. So the sheriff, having absolute total control over his county and the chief law enforcement officer under the Constitution of his state, can tell the FBI, the DEA, the ATF, you can't come in my county. However, if he accepted a grant from them, all those strings are attached, and they'll say, no, buddy, we're coming in under our authority under these grants. And then the sheriff's stuck. So I always tell chiefs of police and sheriffs and stuff, don't take no federal grants. Some state grants are partially through a federal grant. So by de facto, you're still hooked in. You need to generate your revenue locally, and you need to tell the people this is why we do not want grants. Inform the public. This is why we don't want grants. This is so we can operate lawfully and obey the Constitution of our state and nation, and we're not under an administrative state or administrative rule. We're under the rule of law. And if you hurt our people, we're going to hurt you back real bad. Sometimes I've had citizens that said, somebody here or there was messing with them. I said, well, all I can tell you is you can tell them your chief of police says if they come to our city and they hurt you, they're going to get hurt real bad back. We take protecting our citizens real serious. Now, sometimes in small towns, people have squabbles. Well, I'm going to come over and break it up and send you your own way. I'm going to do the Andy Griffith thing. I'm going to try and find the easy way. That's why people like me, because I operate like Andy Griffith, except I just have a lot more education than the character he plays. But I find the easiest, fastest solution that the victim is happy with. If the victim ain't happy, I ain't happy. A girl that was 16 years old had supposedly been raped and molested by a landlord, but she didn't tell till many days later. And I got the state attorney's office involved. I got the advocate involved, and then I actually said she qualifies for ADA, American Disability Act, so we can actually bring in a federal advocate. And then she's entitled to victims' compensation fund through the Attorney General's office because she's a victim of crime. And we can do this and that. Well, the guy was a pretty powerful guy, and I believe he was in child pornography, and he was a peeping Tom. Anyway, I got him to agree to take a voice stress analysis, which he failed miserably, but he thought he could read his mind for some reason. So I actually used that to my advantage. I said, well, you've been read your rights 3 or 4 different times, and you don't have to talk to me. Yeah, I know. And I said, you signed and waved them off repeatedly. He said, I ain't guilty. And I said, I know. I said, but here's the thing. I said, that thing can reach your mind, and it showed that you was trying to hide the truth and the fact that you did this, this, and this is what we picked up on it. So he was going for it, and I said, in fact, the girl had said that you left this behind, and the mind reading machine said you left it behind. So we went and got it, and it's sent off to the lab, and when it comes back, it's going to be matched to you, and then you're going to prison for a long, long time. And he blurted out, I didn't leave that there. Oh, so now for the first time you're admitting you was there, you just didn't leave the evidence. Well, no, I misspoke myself, and I said, yeah, but what you said was, and that'll be used against you. Well, he was a powerful man and a very dirty man, and a couple people in the council is connected, which is why the city council actually fired me so that I couldn't go through with prosecution on him and another guy that was dealing in child pornography. So I was a whistleblower on wrongdoing. And it's a long story, but basically in the end, that's why they had to reinstate me as the chief of police, pay all my back pay, and allow me to go back on the road to retire my choice. And I went back to work for a very minimal amount of time and turned in my retirement because I was afraid there would be some kind of hookup. But I did get the girl out of the situation. I did get her to safety and protection. I can't go into that, but she received compensation from the state. She got professional counseling. She got all of her medical taken care of. And she is a very healthy, probably 30-year-old woman now, in good shape.
Okay.
You know, so, you know, well, I'm going to end this at 3.5 hours and call it quits. And thank you and everybody for coming and sharing your thoughts and opinions and ideas and asking me mine. You know, it's not the war of one, it's the war of the many against the evildoers. So thank you and God bless y'all. It's now 11:36 p.m. Central Standard Time on November the 25th, 2019. God bless you all.